Miami Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. I'm your host, Erick Knowles. Before we get started, a word from one of our supporters.
This is garbage, and you probably think all of it just goes to waste. But in Miami Dade, we convert most of what you throw away into energy. In our waste-to-energy facility, we can turn about 90% of your everyday garbage into reusable fuel.
Levels look good.
That creates clean electricity for our community. Enough energy to power 35,000 homes. Pretty illuminating, huh? In Miami Dade, nothing goes to waste.
Hi, and welcome back to the Miami Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm excited. You know, when you work with people who are doing some amazing things, you know, it's really exciting. It's nothing but excitement because my guest is probably one of the most important persons when it comes to doing business here in South Florida, in particular in the construction industry and other areas as well. But Gladys, how are you?
Hi, how are you, Eric?
I'm doing great. So we have Gladys Keith with us with FSB, Friends of Small Business.
Right.
So who's Friends of Small Business? You know, we all small businesses need friends. So tell us a little bit about FSB.
Okay, FSB is a contract surety servicing agency.
Okay.
What I do is I provide bonds. My specialty is contract surety. And I got started in this. I started on the working capital side of the house, so to speak.
Okay.
In the banking industry.
Right.
But I got very frustrated because I was not very good at getting people loans. Because nobody, I mean, like 90% of everybody that applied didn't qualify. So when you're on that side of doing that type of work, financing, there's a strict rule because it's audited. And you've got to follow this little chart, and everything has to be checked off.
Right.
Well, on not successful, and I didn't like not being able to get people the loans that they wanted.
Right. And that wasn't your fault.
No, it wasn't my fault, but it was not fun coming to work, and maybe every now and then you
Are able to help somebody.
are able to help somebody. And coming from my corporate side of the house, I was able to help a lot of companies do business with Florida Power and Light, where I was minority business specialist there. So this owner of an agency, she was a VP at a surety company.
Okay.
She looked at one of my packages that I was presenting, and she told me, I think that you will make a good agent, you know, a surety agent, because there's no difference in really getting a line of credit and getting a surety bond.
Okay.
Because a surety bond is a credit-like instrument.
Okay.
So that's how I got involved in doing surety.
Okay.
That's a little background.
A little background on surety. So when you speak about surety, basically it's ensuring that a project or that a contractor is working on is going to be completed. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, it's a two-part instrument. You're guaranteeing to the owner the contractor is going to perform the work that he says he's going to perform, but you're also guaranteeing to the owner that he's going to pay everybody involved in that, the suppliers, employee, you know, anybody that's working on the project, subcontractors, everybody is going to get paid.
Okay.
So it's performance is taken care of and payment is taken care of.
Okay.
So that's what a bond guarantees to the owner.
And you know, you hear about bonding all the time, obviously in the construction industry. I've heard there's self-bonding and obviously again, bonding. And a lot of contractors, if you're not able to bond, you can't get the job.
Correct.
Talk about that a little bit.
I work with a lot of small businesses, and I'm not going to say that you are not able to get the bond.
Okay.
You're just not prepared properly to start in the bonding industry, so to speak. A lot of the companies that I meet, they know exactly what they're doing. They're experts as far as performance.
Right.
What they don't have in place is what I call a back room. They don't have an accounting system internally.
Okay.
And they need to always be conscious of whatever types of insurance, because bonding is not insurance. It's totally, and a lot of them think it's insurance, but it's not really.
Okay.
It's more, like I said, a credit instrument. They need to have everything already in place, bank account, CPA prepared financials, and internal financials. Because when I call a company and I say I need a profit and loss and a balance sheet, they should be able to go into their internal system and print me out a profit and loss and a balance sheet as of whatever date that I'm asking for.
Right.
So when I say back room, that's where they fall short.
Right. And I talk about it all the time. I say the back of the house, the back of the room,
Yeah.
Back room, as you say. And I find that, here we are. I don't know whether we say post-pandemic, because we're still reeling from the pandemic.
From the pandemic.
And somewhat still in it. But a lot of our businesses fail to be able to benefit from the government support.
Yeah, the PPP.
The PPP and EIDL, because they did not have the back of their
House
back
in order.
room,
Yes.
the back of the house in order, not having those things that you're talking about, having the CPA, having the proper accounting, and even having the proper setup for their business.
Right,
Is
and
a-
paying themselves.
And paying themselves as well. So what do you see, and again, in my from a novice perspective, I hear of having to bond up to 100,000, 500,000, $1 million. How do the numbers come into play?
The numbers come into play when it comes to your ability to support a project. If you've got a $100,000 project and the owner says, I want you to provide me a performance and payment bond, what the surety is looking for is a lot of the municipalities and government, they don't pay in a timely manner.
Right.
So when you start that project, the surety company is looking to make sure you've got enough working capital
Okay.
to support the project until you get your first draw. I think it's the term they use.
Right.
First draw. So what I look for when I talk to a company, do you know what your payroll expenses is going to be for the first 2 months? You need to know what your overhead, you need to know up front what all those costs are, because I'm looking at your financials to see whether or not you got enough working capital to support it. And 9 times out of 10, there's not enough working capital
Okay.
to support a lot of the projects they're coming to me for bonding. So that's to me where it's falling short, where I'm having a difficult time bonding someone.
So you can have basically, let's say you have the back of the house together, but you don't have that capital.
Right.
So
That could be.
that can be an issue.
Yeah, that can be an issue. And lines of credit are.
I know you started talking about that initially. That's how you started or got
That's how
into
I
the
started out, but that is where they need help.
Okay.
And if Miami Dade Chamber of Commerce could help with getting lines of credit in place to a lot of small businesses. They need help there, especially starting projects.
And that's something that we do. We help guide our businesses to access capital.
Yes.
And, that's one of the biggest challenges. But even to your point, when we're guiding them to access capital, then we are dealing with those issues.
You're dealing with the things that they don't have in place.
That they don't have in place. And it's not, I'm kind of laughing a little bit, but it's not a funny thing because
No.
it's a very serious thing. And a lot of them get frustrated because they're not getting business. And, it's a lot of thinking that, well, you need to give me a break, but it's business. Mm-hmm. And you have to have those things in order. So having that working capital is very important because, as you said, a lot of you, when you're working with whether the school board or the county and you're working with various municipalities, they may not pay within 30 days. It may be 60 days. It may be 90 days, even though a lot of the government agencies say they're going to pay within 15. But I find that a lot of times, in particular, if you're a subcontractor and you don't have, again, your ducks in a row, the contractor is going to hold you up on getting paid.
Mm-hmm. And that happens a lot with the subcontractors.
You want to talk about that a little bit? When you say it happens a lot.
They, a lot of times, the primes will use this pay when pay.
Right.
Let's
talk about the real deal, how this thing works, because a lot of people thinking going into business, like you said, they may be great at doing drywall, they may be good at painting, they may be great at all these different things, but there are these other challenges that they have, paying Davis-Bacon wages,
Yes.
and keeping those records straight. And the little bit that I have learned, that's the one thing I've learned, if you haven't crossed those T's and dotted those I's, were you saying that the contractors say pay when, say that again?
Well, they call it's a pay when pay clause that they put in the subs contract. Mm-hmm. When I get paid, then I'm going to pay you. The surety company ignores that because the legal system ignores it too. If you put in there that you're supposed to pay them in 25 days, that is, to me, the only thing that should fly.
Right.
In 25 days, pay them.
Right.
But they throw this pay when pay because the prime hasn't gotten paid from
whoever they're doing
the business for. It's like a catch-22 for a subcontractor. He is not going to get paid in a timely manner, so he definitely has to have enough working capital in place to cover himself for at least, I say, 60 days.
Right. And then the
first 2 months.
And the point where I was going, and you're saying, as you say, pay when you're paid.
Yeah.
But the other part of that with subcontractors, if they haven't, again, dotted those I's, even though they've done the work.
Yeah, that turn in that application. If that application doesn't have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, it gets turned back to them. So now, if you're on a 20 or 30-day cycle, when your pay app is rejected, now you're in the next month's cycle. So the paperwork it's creating a lot of problems for especially the subs.
Okay.
Because they don't really have enough people, I don't think, in the offices taking care of just the paperwork.
Right.
It's usually the owner
Who's
coming
doing
from the field, and then he's trying to do all the paperwork to turn it in.
And the reality is they think they're saving money, but they're actually losing money.
They are.
So if they paid someone to do this work,
Right.
they actually would be ahead.
Yeah, and they'll get paid a little bit faster.
Right. So again, what other challenges do you see out there when it comes to the whole bonding? I mean, again, I hear so much about bonding, and we're looking at all these
Contracts coming down the road. That's
coming down the road. You look at all this construction that's still continuing to happen. I remember I was in a meeting with one of the large contractors, and I would say 3-4 years ago, you saw like hundreds of cranes, not just a few cranes up in the air throughout Dade County. And he was telling me that there's going to be that much more still coming.
Yeah, it's a lot of work coming down the pipeline, but it's a lot of contractors that they don't have, I'm running into a lot of working capital issues. I have a contractor, he has a $5 million project. I get a bond for him and he starts working on that project. Then he's got another $4 million project the next month. Now I'm looking at his working capital and I'm saying, okay, you have enough to cover the $5 million, but you're short on the $4 million. What are you going to do? Because you don't, these contractors will take that job without even thinking about, okay, I can deal with that later, how I'm going to handle it.
Right, because you see that number.
You think you're seeing the money, but you're creating a problem for yourself, because now the surety company is going to either say no to the $4 million bond, or they're going to want to put some restrictions on you. Okay, we're going to put you in funds control. Or we're going to put you in SBA, which is a very expensive bond. So now you're eating into whatever profit you perceived yourself to have.
Right.
This bonding process now is eating up your profit. It's going to cost you more than it would have if you'd up front say, okay, I can't handle the $4 million yet. Or let me go talk to my bank, increase my line of credit,
Right.
so that I have enough to cover the $4 million.
And that's what I see a lot in again, in the years that I've been here at the Chamber. Obviously, we are advocating and, working to open doors. But then if you're not prepared, to your point, you can think you're prepared, but when this opportunity for $5 million, you really only can do $2 million. We have to stay within our wheelhouse, I guess I would say, until you build up to that.
Right. And you got to stay conscious of what you can afford, which is what I consider like pre-qualifying a contractor. And I look at them and I tell them, okay, you can afford a $5 million single job, or two
small jobs,
2.5 millions, but right now your aggregate is $5 million.
Right.
That's what you can do right now. Don't add another 4 on top of this, because that's one way.
It's about managing the process.
Right, and it's one way of going out of business.
Right, and exactly. Now, we don't have a lot of time left, but let's talk about joint venture. Do you find yourself dealing with contractors forming joint ventures to be able to bond at a higher level?
The big guys do it all the time. The smaller guys don't do it. But the thing with bonding is the one that can get the larger bond is going to be the one that has to be the lead in the JV. Because say you have a $5 million project, one can do $3 million, the other can do $2 million. Well, when they put together that project, they still got to come up with $500,000 to cover the whole project, because the surety doesn't really look at, okay, you're going to do 2, you're going to do 3.
Right.
They're looking, the contract says $5 million. That's all they see is the $5 million. What's happening behind the scenes doesn't really matter to them. They got to just pay for the $5 million
Right.
contract.
It's not a split.
It's not a split to them.
And to them. We thought we were going to have a lot of time to talk about this.
But we don't.
No, we don't. We're running out of time. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Okay, they can reach me at Gladys@fsbagencyinc.com, or you can call 954-589-1631. That's my office number.
Okay. You know, this has been the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. Been here with FSB, my friend Gladys. Keith, thank you for joining us. See you next time. Welcome back to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. Yeah, I'm that excited guy on Mondays at 12 o'clock because we got some amazing people that we have conversations with, and this person is doing some amazing things. Margaret, how are you?
Great, I'm doing fantastic.
You know, I'm just so excited to have you because there are not many women in your line of business running the business that you do. And I think maybe the name might give it away a little bit, Mr. Wireman. So tell the folks what is Mr. Wireman?
So Mr. Wireman is an electrical contractor. We're located in South Florida. And yes, I am a woman dominating in a man's world. And as the name say, Mr. Wireman, I thought I'd be cute about it and not name it Miss Wireman, only because of the field. And I wanted to be able for people to have respect for me and not passing judgments before they meet or engage with me. So I stuck with the Mr. part.
Right. But it's great, and obviously we've been knowing each other for a while, and just so much, I guess I would say, opportunities going on right now because of all the construction going on here in South Florida, not only commercially, but from a home perspective. Many homes being built here in South Florida, all the way from Florida City, all the way up to when we talk about Miami-Dade County, but you're in Broward as well, and when we talk about Palm Beach. How did you get started?
I got started out of necessity.
Okay.
I was helping out my husband, and then just saw the opportunities and recognizing that he was one individual, and that if I put my strength behind him, how much we can push the business forward. So I call that necessity, and that necessity has actually pivoted us into a fantastic place because now we are a woman-owned company, taking advantage of a lot of the opportunities that you're talking about. And yes, the construction business is booming, and in our business we laugh a lot because my husband says, I'm the talker, I'm the face, go do your thing, and you go out there, you bring it back, and I'll take care of it. And so that's kind of like the space that we work in, but right now, I would be silly if I didn't take advantage of what is being presented before me.
Right. And what you just said, the fact that you said your husband, you said you're the talker, and we've had some great conversations, and your personality definitely is that. And being an entrepreneur, as I said, you have to go out there and hunt. You have to go out there and get your food, and it doesn't just come to you. So that whole piece of out there soliciting business, going after the school board, going after the county business, whether it's in Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach. How challenging is that?
Okay, so let me say it this way. First and foremost, nothing comes to you. You have to go get it. One of the misconceptions that a lot of small minority, woman-owned Black businesses think that because they carry those status, they feel like somebody's going to call them up and offer them something. That's not it. You have to hunt.
Right.
And so, for me, every day I'm looking for the next opportunity. I keep my ears to the ground to find out what is going on, but I don't want to find out when it's happening. I want to find out when it's being thought of.
Right.
So my engagement is that I'm always out engaging the chamber.
Absolutely.
Just different organizations to find out, what do you know?
Right.
And what do you know that's coming down from the school board? What is your next year budget looks like? The airport, the counties, wherever. I'm always looking to see what is next?
Right.
And for me, one of the things that I would encourage any small business is stop thinking that because you're there, it's going to come. You have to hunt for it and find it, and then put yourself in the opportunity in order to get to a space where you can say, I'm doing well.
Right. And the thing that you're talking about, it may sound, I don't know what to say, it sounds simply, easy to do. But what you're talking about, you can't wait till, and I'm trying to use an analogy, until the soup is on the stove. You got to be there when all the ingredients are being added and before even thinking up the recipe, as you're saying. So it's having those relationships and building those relationships out there amongst those developers, amongst those GCs that are talking to developers, to owners, and sitting in the room when the recipe is being developed. Am I saying that right?
You are absolutely saying that correct. Again, you don't want to know, in the construction industry, you don't want to know about a project when somebody hands you the blueprint. You want to be a part of the creation of the blueprint. And so if you wait until that's the stage, now you have, your competition is an ocean. I want to get in it when it's just a tiny little pond.
Right.
And so for me, I go out there, I go to the commissioners meeting, the planning meetings. I want to know who bought that piece of land and what is their intentions with the land, so that I can find out, okay, you're developing that and what are you putting on it? And is it something that is in my will? Well, is that a part of my niche that I'm looking for? And so, I'm always engaging myself in figuring out what's next? What's next?
You just said something. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone put it quite the way you just put it. When someone has purchased a piece of land, you are like there.
Right.
That's very astute to because I remember hearing a few months ago, Tibor Hollow being one of our largest, one of the developers who's been around forever. He sold 2 acres off of Brickell for $260 million. Sold it. So
Right.
somebody bought that, and obviously they're going to do something with it.
Absolutely.
So that's a very enlightening. Again, I've never heard anyone put it like that.
And see, and that's when you have to engage in planning and zoning. You got to see what is coming up.
Right.
Right now, the construction industry is like, you go past an intersection in the morning, you come back in the afternoon, it's being cleared.
Right.
You come back 2 days later, there's a building. So nothing is waiting. And if you're waiting for, I'm gonna wait till I see a sign up there,
No, you're too late.
you're out the
game. The game is
The
over.
game is over. We're in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So for me, it's the engaging in the chambers, finding out, meeting people, engaging. Hey, what are you doing next? What is the big contractors looking at? Because sometimes when you engage with them, they will tell you what you don't already know
Right.
in regards to what's coming up. When you hear of Overtown, Liberty City, all of that stuff, from the moment that buzzword goes out,
Right.
start figuring out who's sitting at the table and start engaging those people. Where they go, that's where I want to show up.
Absolutely. And again, you talk about planning and zoning. In the last 5 years, we've seen so much go up in terms of commercial properties, residential properties, from Homestead through Palm Beach.
Correct.
There's just business booming. And like I said, that's the last 5 years. But there's stuff being cooked right now. So and again, it's the same conversation we're having. Tell me how you really go in there and dig that up.
Okay, so for me, it's one, I have to let people know that I exist.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest piece, is letting people know you exist. Sometimes we assume that I've got a license, I've got a business, I've got this, and people know that you're there. And that's not always the case. So you have to always let people know that you exist. And then the next thing for me is, one of the things that I do is I choose who I work with.
Okay.
So once I have a list of general contractors that I'm saying, these are my go-to people. And anybody else that engages me, I will try. I try it on a smaller scale so that we can build, that love and get and understanding. So I'm always in there, hey, what are we looking at? What are we thinking about? And once you get on board and build that relationship, they will call you. I have currently, I'm working on a project where, it was just a phone call and saying, hey, this is a large project. It is much too much for you, but because of the status, the certifications that you carry, I'm going to introduce you to the large electrical contractor that will be taking on this project. So again, the whole dynamics comes down to relationship.
And you bring up something that where I was going to go next in terms of, you and I have talked about joint ventures.
Correct.
On those large projects, and I know we were both in Washington and with the Congressional Black Caucus, and I met some large contractors, and we talked about I told them that they need to talk to you because, again, it's about relationships.
Right.
So talk about joint ventures a little bit.
And I always try to take it back a little bit, because as small businesses, we are fearful in thinking that the big guys only want to take advantage of us. And that is not true. But you have to go in there correct. Mm-hmm. Okay? And what I have found with my joint ventures is they actually want to help me. I did not realize how much I was always thinking, oh, I needed them. No, they need me. They actually need me.
Right.
But you have to let them know what you don't know.
Okay.
Once you let them know what you don't know, then they can help you and nurture you in a better way. But if you go in there thinking that I got this and I know it all, you're gonna mess up.
Right.
When I got my first joint venture, I said, listen, don't do that, don't know how to do this, don't know. The gentleman says to me, not a problem. Do you want to learn? I was like, absolutely. Mm-hmm. They took me and walked me through everything, all the process. So for me, I think a joint venture is absolutely wonderful. It takes away a lot of the outside risk for us in helping us to learn. So I think it's great.
Right. So I say we're not necessarily post-pandemic, because we're still reeling from the pandemic in terms of costs for materials. Those things have hit us very hard. How did you pivot during the pandemic? I know you were engaged with the chamber, the whole thing with us, like a lot of businesses, we had to make them go get PPP. You might have been one of those persons that I told you better go get that PPP.
I was.
And I'm sitting there remembering that. And you're like, Eric, I don't know. And so talk about going through the whole last couple of years.
Okay, so when the pandemic came on, we were doing okay, and then once the pandemic hit, okay, projects got put on hold, all that, everything was slowing down. While construction was considered essential,
right,
and was moving along, but now there was no material available. So one of the things that we did in our business was, and this again I learned from my joint venture, was I started issuing POs.
Okay.
And locking down prices.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I said, I gave my supplier, this is my list, and here's your PO. Can't raise your price on me, can't do anything.
That's smart.
I learned that from the big guys.
That's smart.
That's what they did. So I did it too.
Right.
So that's one of the way in which I was able to survive. And then it just seemed like nobody was at work, so you weren't getting paid on time, in the county and all that good stuff. So yes, I had to go reluctantly and get the PPP, to help me
through the time.
Through the time. And so, and again, getting things like that as small business, getting the back of your house in order. I can't say that enough.
And that's, it's interesting how we're going through this conversation, because that was the next place where I was going to go. How important is it to have the back of your house in order?
Super, super important. Shoe boxes does not work anymore. You have to be able to come with the proper information and to lay it out so that someone can help you, even if it's not 100%, but
Right.
have something that makes sense.
Right.
That it's not going to take a person, 3 years to put it together, but get the back of your house together. The Chamber offers multiple classes, training, opportunities of where you can learn how to, and individuals to assist. I say take advantage of that. There are multiple other organizations out there that does that, and I think that as small business, we really need to make sure that you're prepared. It is better to be prepared for an opportunity and don't have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
It's such good pearls of wisdom here. One area where I want to go, and I know you have dealt with this throughout the years. We don't have a lot of time left, but this is the area I want to cover. Doing business with the school board, doing business with the county or municipalities. A lot of times our businesses get discouraged because they may not win the bid.
Okay, so I'm gonna give away all my tips and tricks this morning. But first and foremost, you can't get discouraged. It's called the nature of doing business. You have to be in the game. I bid all day. I don't get it. I don't get everything that I get, but I don't stop.
Right.
Because the moment I stop, I lose.
Right.
That will be the one. And then you're not married to anybody. I bid them all.
Right.
I just had a guy from the school board that says to me, your name shows up on everything. I said, yes, because anybody that gets that, I want in.
Right.
So we can't be so, as small businesses, you can't be so straight and saying, well, I only bid with this. No, you have to cast your net and see what you catch. And that's basically how I do that. The school board also too has opportunities to show you how to put the county does as well. If you're a prime, they will show you where you fell short at.
Right.
Go in and have somebody, your GCs, call them up and say, hey, I know I didn't win, but without telling me the other person's number, can you give me some idea where I fell in? Was I way too high, way too low? Was I in the pack?
Right.
And that helps.
Right.
It helps a lot.
We think that our time is going to be long, but our time has run right by. So how can someone get in touch with you?
You can reach me at margaret@mrwireman.com or 954-792-4990.
And if you want to know more about the Chamber, you can call us at 305-751-8648 or go to www.m-dcc.org. This has been the Miami-Dade Chamber Member Connection. Hi, we're back, and I'm Erick Knowles, president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and this is the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. And I know every time I come on here, I talk about how excited I am about my guests. And, today is not an exception. I am truly excited about our guest today, someone who has been doing some amazing things in our community. It's truly an honor to have him here today, as he honors so many in our community each and every day. And none other than the founder, the CEO, the president of Legacy Magazine, MIA Magazine, my good friend Dexter Bridgman. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric. Thank you for having me. I'm so pleased and honored to be here.
Well, no, it's an honor to have you here, man. All the work that you've been doing with MIA and Legacy Magazine, and your online, Legacy, online, and MIA online. And how many years has it been now?
It's been 18 years. It's been 18.
Wait a minute, excuse me.
Yeah.
18?
Yep. I moved down here in 2004, and I started the first publication I moved down in May 2004, and the first publication came out in November of 2004, and it's been 18 years. Can you believe it?
No,
Seemed
I
like
don't.
it was just yesterday.
I don't. I don't believe it. 18 years. Right? You
Yeah.
see, time flies when you're having fun.
That's interesting that you say this, because this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't
It's
find
hard
this
work. It's a hustle. I mean,
it
it's
is
like
work.
anything else. It's work,
Absolutely.
but you're enjoying what you're
wouldn't-
doing.
I love it so much. I would do it for free.
I don't know about that. But let's talk about how did you get into this whole business of publication?
Well, it's when I say a long story, it's a long story meaning many, many years. But in my younger days, I had an opportunity to meet the legendary Earl Graves.
Okay.
And back when I was living in New York, I was 19 years old. I had an opportunity to tour his office, and I was just so inspired and so impressed by what I saw. I came from humble beginnings, like many of us do, and I've never seen that type of black wealth in my life.
Right.
So I was so inspired and so impressed, and I said, Mr. Graves, one day at the end of the tour, I said, one day I'm going to be a publisher. And he said, Dexter, when that day happens, you call me. And 25 years later, I happened to be, by divine intervention, I guess, Eric, I happened to be invited to his 25-year anniversary celebration. And I was in line getting ready to kiss his ring, and I said, Mr. Graves, I met you 25 years ago. I met you not 25 years ago, but I met you when I was 19, and I had an opportunity to tour your office, and I told you that at that point in time I would be a publisher. He said, well, are you? I said, sure. And so he said, show me what you got. And I went to my inside coat jacket pocket, pulled out my publication, and he was like, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. So that next day, he called me and said that he wants to do an interview with me. And as it happens, I appeared in his 25-year anniversary celebration issue. And that kind of propelled me into a stratosphere in terms of getting a whole lot of publicity and a whole lot of press coverage that you just cannot buy.
Right.
Right. From that, I was living in New York, and the Daily News picked up on it, CNN picked up on it, and I appeared on CNN, I appeared in the Daily News and several of the local publications there, and that propelled my career. And it all started with someone that was a black leader, someone who was a black business leader. Many people like you have in here, that like your members, that you so welcome on a daily and a monthly basis, that you fight for all of us. You fight for our financial livelihood. So, we certainly appreciate that, and the benefits are certainly shown and demonstrated by the great work that you do at the Chamber.
Well, and I want to thank you for that, but really, that story about Earl Graves and being propelled, it's about being in the right place at the right time. It's about being prepared when the opportunity presents itself.
Yes.
We talk about that all the time. And, you come from humble beginnings, but I know that your publication reaches quite a few people, and I believe you are the largest publication of your nature in the United States right now.
If we were a national publication, we'd be the third largest black publication of our kind in the entire country. We'd be behind Essence and Ebony Magazine. But we're local, and we happen to be the largest in the state, the largest certainly in terms of circulation, readership, and distribution. I'm not going to say I'm smarter than the average bear, because I don't make comparisons and what have you. But I was able to be very fortunate and selected my marketing partners very carefully, and struck up a deal with the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel, where I pay them to have my publications distributed into their publications as an insert, so it's widely seen. And then we also have a very strong digital presence. I felt that with the changing dynamics in my industry, we don't know. You've heard many times that, what's going to happen with print? I think print is here for a while, but at the same time, we don't know. So I'm just preparing myself to make sure that if anything does happen, I'm ready.
Right. And okay, so we talk about MIA. Which was the first? What came first, chicken or the egg? MIA or Legacy? Let's say.
Well, Legacy came first, but before Legacy, the name of my publication was actually Success South Florida.
Okay, I remember
Yes,
that. Yeah,
yes.
right.
And
exactly.
then when I started the relationship with the Herald and the Sun Sentinel, I said, you know what? It's a new day. It's a new beginning. I want to come up with a new name. That's when I came up with the name Legacy in 2010, 2011.
Okay.
And then, so the name of the company, the corporate name is actually MIA Media Group. So we have Legacy Miami, which is distributed in the Miami Herald, Legacy South Florida, which is distributed inside of the Sun Sentinel and serves 2 markets in South Florida. It serves Broward and Palm Beach County. Obviously, Legacy Miami services Miami-Dade County.
Right.
MIA magazine is actually my entertainment publication, and what we do is we partner with major black organizations or events that come to South Florida. So Jazz in the Gardens, where we are the official publication of Jazz in the Gardens, we partner with the city of Miami Gardens. The American Black Film Festival, we partner with them, and Jeff Friday and his group, they'll be here in less than a month or so. We partner with him to be the official publication. We partner with the GMCVB and Art Basel and Art of Black and we're the official publication of the Art of Black. And we just signed on with the Orange Blossom Classic to be their official publication. So that's MIA. We are, as I said, we're event driven based upon what's happening here in South Florida.
Okay. So something you just said that was quite impressive. You said you pay the Miami Herald to be in their publication.
Yes.
Talk about that. I mean, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, and they go about doing their business. They have a business model, but talk about that business model a little bit. Well,
I don't see why this model is not used. Anybody could do it. I don't see why other publications, it's just, this is not like, industry secrets or anything
Right.
of that nature. I think, whether another publication wants to do it with the Herald or Sun Sentinel. The thing about it is, in my industry, there's, sometimes people kind of stretch the truth about their circulation, about their distribution, about their readership. Well, I can't do that.
Right.
And I wouldn't do that. That's
Right.
just, I can't do this. So when I say that my publication is distributed in the Herald, and I pay the Herald or the Sun Sentinel, the thought of when I say that my readership is 150,000 or 200,000, there's no question. Nobody
Right.
questions me.
right.
And I say to them, hey, if you want to call the Herald, here's the person you call to verify that.
Right.
Here's the person you call in circulation with the Sun Sentinel to confirm that. But it is, I feel good about it actually.
Right. It's something to be proud of.
I feel good that hey, I know a lot of people thought that I was a part of the Herald or the Herald owned me or what have you, owned my publication. No.
Well, I know a lot of publications. I know, to your point, the Miami Herald does a lot of different magazines,
Yeah.
so they don't just print the newspaper. They're
Exactly.
in business to make money, and that's one of
Exactly.
the ways that they make money. So, how did you strike up that deal? I'm just saying. How do you go, from, okay, I'm going to start a publication, I'm going to print this. Obviously, you got to market it. You got to
Yeah.
put all the things, all the moving parts. But how do you go to a Knight Ridder, Miami Herald, to do that?
Well, you said something earlier when you said you always have to be prepared. And back in 2010, during the worst part of, I'm 61 years old, and those 4 years between 2008 and 2012 was probably the worst years of my life financially because of the economy, the recession.
Right.
And I'm sitting around trying to figure out how and what can I do. You heard the term, you work hard, you work smart. man, I was doing both of them and still not getting anywhere. It didn't matter. Right. And so I was taking money from Dexter Bridgman,
Peter to pay Paul,
to support MI Media Group.
Right.
And I like to say that if I was an Italian loan shark, I would have broken from the Bronx. I would have broke my own legs.
right.
So anyway, and one day I got a call from the Miami Herald saying, listen, we know that we don't do a very good job in covering the black community, and we'd like to, and we're meeting with several black media entities in South Florida, and we've done our due diligence, and we'd like to talk to you. I said, okay, and they don't even know this. I'm telling these stories for the first time. So I was actually in New York.
Okay.
And I was sick at that point in time, and I was laying in my mother's bed and on the phone, and they were like, well, how soon can you meet with us? Can you meet with us tomorrow? I said, yeah, because when opportunity knocks, man, you got to go.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so they said, well, can you be here at 10 o'clock? I said, I can't be here at 10 o'clock, but you give me any other time, preferably after 12. They said, well, can you be here like 3 or 4? I said, absolutely. Eric, I called around the airlines. The best rate I could get was $800.
They
Guess
noticed.
what? I had to be there.
I
had to be there.
Right.
But it was not,
Right.
I'm like, listen, I got to be there. If it's $1,000 or $1 million, I'm going to be there. So so I'm come to meet with them and their executive editor, their publisher, all these executives and what have you, and they tell me what they had in mind and how they'd like to work with me, and what not necessarily how they like to work with me, but what their vision was.
Right.
And then I'm telling them what I'm doing, what my vision is, and they said, well, wow, we like everything we hear from you. Well, I think we'd like to make a decision, and we'd like to make the decision now. We want to work with you. And so they said, is there anyone you have to call, or is there a partner or anyone? I'm like, this is me.
It.
This is me.
Buck stops here.
Buck stops here. So 2000, we made that deal in 2010. We came out with our first issue in 2011, and it's been under the Legacy name, and we've been rocking and rolling ever since.
Right.
It's with some growing pains, as you can probably imagine, and what have you. But man, let me tell you something: the best decision I ever made. And like you said, you just have to, when opportunity knocks, you got to be ready. And one thing also for everybody, you gotta, your mama tells you all the time, make sure your underwear is clean, because you never know what's going to happen. And when they said that they did their due diligence on me before I even walked in the door,
right,
had no clue.
Right.
No clue, and you just you never know
who's watching.
Who's watching.
Right.
That's why you got to be at your best at all times.
Absolutely.
Well,
obviously you talk about, the fact that you built your business to where you are. Talk about some of the challenges.
Whew. I mean, it's been challenging. I will tell you that from, if you look at the Miami Herald, you look at the Sun Sentinel, look at some of the other general market publications, you will see ads in their publications that you don't see in mine.
Right.
And no matter how hard I knock on the door, it doesn't answer. The door doesn't open. But that's okay, because it will, and it has been. And it's a slow grind, but anything worth your effort, it's going to happen. It's going to happen if you put in the effort. And it's been a slow grind with some of these entities, but it's happening, and the growth of my publication shows that. I will tell you that it sometimes it's not very easy, and it's sometimes very complicated in terms of just trying to figure out why the answers sometimes that you get but I never want to consider it in terms of like, well, it's because I'm a minority, because I'm black, or this and that and the other. I like to think that because they're not educated and informed.
Right.
So when I talk to them, I like to be able to educate and inform them. Hey, the reason why you've never advertised with us because probably no one's ever approached you about it. Number one. Now I'm approaching you about it, and I'm putting it out there. I'm telling you what our demographics are. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
And
right.
you know what? Eventually they come around.
Yeah. So Legacy, MIA, and as you said, in the last couple of years, you've gone digital.
Yes.
And I know you're online. You want to talk about that a little bit before our time in?
Yeah, that's very exciting to me. It's the whole digital component with that. Again, that's because you have to prepare for the future, and the future is definitely digital. The future is definitely video, like a show like this. So what we decided to do was go all in. Create digital content. We create a digital newsletter that we send out 3 times per week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Over 90,000 people, subscribers. Now we have shows that we do on Facebook. We do that every day. We have a total of 6 shows covering everything from Mondays, where we do the business of black business. Tuesday we do My Money, Your Money, which is about black people and their finances, from generational wealth management, personal finances. Wednesday we have a show called Soul, which is about, like I say, intellectual entertainment with culture and art. Thursdays we have, which is really a public affairs show, Lunch with Legacy Leaders, and then Thursday evening we have a show with Chef Erick called The Flavor of South Florida, where we go around to black-owned restaurants in the South Florida community, Miami Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and we talk about exposing their restaurant, their cuisine to our readers. And then our newest show, which just started in April, called Black Health, where we have Dr. Michelle Kerwin, who's a pretty renowned local physician here, and she hosts a show, and we talk about health issues that impact the black community.
Man, I tell you, this has been the quickest 20 minutes that I've ever done. I mean,
it's over with already?
It's over with already. It's just so much information. If someone wants to learn more about MIA or Legacy, how can they get in touch?
Well, they can contact me at 305-412-9600, extension 700. And they can also reach me personally on my email address is dab@miamediagrp.com. And also they can go to our website at miamediagrp.com or group.com.
Wow. This has been amazing. And I tell you, if you want to know more about the Miami-Dade Chamber, you can go to www.m-dcc.org, or you can call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. This has been the Miami-Dade Chamber's Member Connection, and you've been here with Dexter Bridgman and Legacy and MIA Magazine.